Well, who am I then? I've been recognized in many different media outlets as somebody who's a thought leader, and I influence companies in many ways, especially, of course, in pricing. And part of that is because of my new book, The Price Whisper. Buy it wherever you buy books from, online or in a brick and mortar store. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about pricing research. And I'm going to talk about why the traditional methods of measuring willingness to pay doesn't work, right? Well, kind of doesn't work. But let's go into that in some detail eventually. So in pricing research, I mean, the whole point of pricing research is to go out to a company's marketplace and understand what potential buyers are willing to pay for a product or a service. And in traditional market research, and some market research companies do pricing research as part of their offering. Some include a little piece of pricing as part of one of their traditional market research projects. But there are three methods that are used for this pricing research, whether it's done as a separate project, or or part of a larger, possibly market research project. Now, these three methods they're widely used. They are widely documented and so forth. And they're also not very good, right? Which is the reason why in my company we developed a fourth way of doing this that has been proven, I would say, to be more precise, and more actionable. But what I want to do in this video is to review these methods and how they're different, right? And I want to start with a method called conjoint analysis. Conjoint analysis it's a method that I think was invented somewhere in the 1970s or so, maybe even earlier. And when you do this online, and we're talking only online research here, by the way, the whole idea with conjoint analysis is to present the respondents to a survey with three or four alternatives. Now, each of these alternatives or bundles will consist of a price. It will consist of a number of attributes. Now, those attributes could be product features. It could be product benefits or service, by the way. It could be brand names. It could be purchase channels, and it could be value statements and so forth. And the idea with a conjoint analysis is that a respondent is being presented with, say, four of these alternatives, and is supposed to look at them all four, and then decide which of these four they are more likely to buy. Right? So far, so good. Now, the problem here lies in two aspects of a conjoint analysis. First of all, whatever you choose in a conjoint analysis, you are then being presented with another four choices. Now, I said the attributes will stay the same, but within each attribute, the variables will change. So the pricing variable will start at one level, one price level, and then go up and down for the other bundles that you have. Likewise, let's say that another attribute is brand. you start with one brand, and then for the other bundles, that will change to different brands or sometimes the same brand as you started with. So um, and the respondents pick one of the choices that he or she believes is the most appropriate, the most likely to buy, and then are being presented with a new set of 4 bundles. The same attributes, but the variables will be different. Now, the problem here is that this is being repeated 12 times, 15 times, whatever, and I can tell you without any doubt that once you've looked at these bundles 6 or 7 times and you take the survey, you are so bored in looking at it. So following on, very few will actually review the details in the bundles, and they will just click randomly to move on in the survey, right? And that means that the error rate in a conjoint becomes very high, right? And obviously there are always somebody who will complete it, but in general terms, people will not. The second problem with a conjoint is that the amount of space you have in this particular online display, if you want, to explain what these variables are under each of the attributes are very small. You only have a couple of words, right? And it's very difficult to explain a particular value or a positioning statement or a marketing message and so forth if the only thing you have available to you is a couple of words, right? So so as the respondent consider these various choices they have, it's very difficult to understand what the product or service actually delivers. But the price is always very easy to understand. It's a dollar figure, right? And this means that in a conjoint, the price itself gets a higher degree of importance in making the purchase decision than in fact it would have in real life. So 2 problems with conjoint. Price is being overrepresentative as a purchase driver, and it's so repetitive that the error rate end up being very high, right? So the next method I want to talk about is called Garber-Granger, and Garber-Granger is almost like an action. The respondents is being seen a description of a product or a service and the price, and then the question always becomes, will you buy this product or service for this price? And if the answer is yes, then you're being presented with the same question at a higher price. If the answer is no, you're being again presented with the same question as a lower price. And then that goes on until eventually there has been there's a consensus of what the price should be. But I think this is good in theory. The problem with Garber-Granger is that, just as with conjoint, it is very, very repetitive. So again, when somebody's seen that same question with a different price 5 or 6 or 7 times, many respondents start just clicking randomly. And it means that the error rate goes up, right? Good idea, just like with conjoint, but also not as, high error rate. The third method is called the Van Westendorp price sensitivity meter. This is very different because here respondents are filling in the the price they want to pay. And the whole idea is to ask 4 questions. There's a description of the product or service, and then the 4 questions are now. The 4 questions are: at what price is the price so low that you're not going to be willing to pay for it because you don't think the quality is good enough? Next question is, at what price is so high that you wouldn't buy it no matter how good the quality is? And the third question the respondent is supposed to fill in is, at what price is this product or service just about available to you with a stretch of your budget? And at what price is this product or service low, but not too low, so you will buy it because it's a great bargain, right? These are all fine and dandy, but they're also very simple questions, right? But the real problem with Van Westendorp is that it creates 4 questions, create 4 distribution or frequency charts of different price points, and as those 2 of these lines will go from left to right will go up, 2 of these lines from left to right will go down, and in the middle there is this triangular kind of area in the chart, and then all those points of that triangle is supposed to be a different price point. Well, it is different price points, but price points that means different things. And then you have the whole horizontal stretch of the that diamond shape, not triangle, diamond shape, that is supposed to be the acceptable price range. So instead of giving you the optimal price, it gives you 4 possible prices and the price range. So very imprecise, right? The method we developed in our company leverages some of the behind the scene thinking of the Van Westendorp model, in that we do ask similar questions, but they're very much enhanced. So we can take this. We take specific product features, specific benefits and so forth in and make them part of the actual questions, right? But then in the analysis, it's completely different, because what we come up with is 1 price point that leads to the highest sales volume, 1 price point that leads to the highest revenue, and that's it, right? There's not 4 price points, there are no price ranges, there's an exact price points that leads to the highest sales volume and an exact price point that leads to the highest revenue. What else do you want to know, right? That is exactly, if you do pricing research, that's what you want to know. Now, I'm going to continue with this discussion about pricing research, because what we just defined, the exact price that leads to the highest sales volume and the exact price that leads to the highest revenue, are the baseline. Because in all pricing research, you need to drill deeper into the data that you have. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. So join me then, and thank you very much for your time. And I hope you found this of some interest. Thank you very much.